is what you're saying, that when things are going really good for you, or times in the past when things were going very good and smooth and easy and graceful and awesome, that you would have a little voice in your head or sorts, or something that was like making it more challenging to be grateful for the awesome times you're having? Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. Duality.
Um,
I can relate to feeling so good, and like things are going so great for me, and I'm like so almost like spilling over with gratitude, and at the simultaneously there is maybe like I would describe it at least in the past as a voice of like guilt or shame, which I guess could be both described as fear. And I think that for myself, what I would say that I imagine is the more enlightened way to deal with that, rather than trying to get rid of the opposite of the angel on one shoulder. If we have an angel on one shoulder and this other big being on another shoulder, rather than trying to get rid of that, to see how much I can love this little fellow, or whatever this is, this voice in my head that's causing me to be guilty or fearful or shameful. I'll use an example. For instance, like I've had such a weird relationship with things classified as substances, and I talk a lot about this in the book. Whether it's an awesome beer or cannabis or whatever it is, that sometimes I've wondered, like, things are going so great even when I'm like using those. I've overused those, and I'm like, well, that's not to be overused. But when I use them in a balanced way, I'm like, this is so awesome. I'm having such a great time. I feel more connected. I feel like this is like a hack. I feel like I'm in a video game of life, and this is like my extra boost power for now, and I can use it without being used by it. But then I start to wonder, like, well, I've gotten like heady about it. I'm like, am I really having a good time, or am I just under the influence of this plant? And I've gone into that whirlwind of like, why am I raining on my own parade? But then I've learned that temptation for me to be heady or feel guilty or feel shameful, when I started loving that part of me, I'm like, wait, I love the ability. I love that I'm here in this life, and that I can feel guilty if I choose, or I can feel shameful or I choose, or I can get heady if I choose. And I realized, like, once I started loving that part of me, that voice inside my head, then I realized the gifts that offers. I realized that, for instance, I don't know if I could consume cannabis or beer in a healthy way if it wasn't for that voice inside my head keeping me in balance. So I'm not sure if we can get specific with what is the voice in your head that kind of seems to rain on your parade.
Well, like, I'll give you an example. So, actually, I watched, so I followed Diana as well, and she had posted something about the tomatoes growing in the backyard, and how, like, she was, like, trying so hard to grow these tomatoes, and then she just asked for it, and it happened. So, I was living in New York. I wanted to come live out on the West Coast in LA, and I was job searching like every day. Nothing was happening, and then I saw that post, and I was like, you know what? I just need to stop. Like, this is what I want. I want to move to LA, and I just kind of like surrendered. And then everything happened. Like 3 weeks later, I had a job offer out here, and like it's like it just worked out even like better than I could have ever imagined. But then now that I'm here, I'm like, oh, like that was too easy. Like that was too easy. Like something has to like happen, or like.
Okay, so this is great. Like, that's what I love about this conversation. This is pretty deep. I'm not even sure if we're making sense of it, but I'm not too caught up on making sense. It's I think what I would encourage you is to like love that part of you, because it's driving you to even be more and get more. Like, if you didn't have that voice inside your head, I understand you might think that you might be more grateful or at ease, but I wonder if it would make you more apathetic and lazy if you didn't have that voice.
Okay.
There's a fine line, I think, between feeling completely satisfied and being apathetic.
Okay.
And I wonder if that guy, that voice inside of our head, that other thing other than the angel on our shoulder, is it here to keep us moving forward, to keep us in a state of progress, to keep us in a state of like growth and generosity and evolving. So not just being like a compliant, not just feeling like wow, you wanted to go to LA and you got the job and this is better than you even anticipated. Why are you not feeling completely satisfied? Maybe because it only gets better. That's the faith that I've chosen to have about that voice inside my head. Like, so rather than trying to get rid of it, because as I talk about in the book, I've found when I try to get rid of something like that, that sometimes it makes it grow. So if I try to get rid of that voice in inside my head, what I resist may persist. But if I can love it and illuminate it and fully be with it, then it seems more likely to leave me be, let me be, and be my friend rather than my frenemy.
I just, like, I don't want to seem like I'm not grateful because I am. And then I don't want it to seem that I'm not happy with the things that I have because I am.
Well, what about how can we get you to really love the part of you that doesn't want to not seem grateful? I know it gets trippy. That's what I'm saying. Like, if I can keep flipping love back and forth, if I keep passing this loving vibration from this part of myself to this part of myself, to this guy to this voice in my head, to this feeling in my chest, to this sweat on my palms, if I can love, it seems like the best way to deal with it is not to get rid of it, but to like keep passing it back and forth. This is like almost what I think about the ego. It's like, I don't know if we can ever get rid of the ego, but I think the more we pass along what we think the ego is, or how we identify with the ego, and we just watch it, we keep making sure that we see it and that we're aware of it, it's like the more power it loses to the friction or the drag of me passing it around for fun. But it's like when I try to bury it, that's when that thing is like, that's ripe soil. If I try to bury that, that's when it seems to really sprout and really show its big face. And I think this is where it really what we're getting at is an idea of a full self-acceptance.
This voice drives me crazy sometimes, and then the more I try to avoid it, the worse.
Yeah, and that's the thing. That's what I'm saying. Even if it drives you crazy, can you love the voice inside your head that seems to drive you crazy? Can you love the part of you that wants to get rid of the voice in your head, even though you think that makes you go crazy? Or can you love that part of you that seemingly wants to go crazier? And why do you want to go crazier? What is that crazy? How does that crazy want to live? Do you know? Like, does that crazy feel like does it feel like a depression, or does it feel like like an increase in anxiety or nervousness, or?
Well, like, sometimes it's good where it's like, all right, like, okay, I moved out here, that's great, but like, what else can I do to give back or like do more? But then another one is like, well, but I don't know, like, you don't really deserve all this stuff. And then I get sad, and it's like, fuck. Like,
well, with the last 40 seconds here, I do think you deserve everything.
Yeah. In
the sense that here we are, we're living this potential dream of life. It's like, how lucid can we live? And I think the more the lucidity or the freedom of that feeling of self-acceptance or self-expression is just keep like turning up your awareness. Like, if there's a part of you that seemingly wants to sabotage you, can you love that part of you? That self-sabotaging part of you until you maybe find out what it wants and how it wants to be channeled. Like, maybe that tension that you're having between I'm feeling so good, why am I not feeling so good, is your real treasure.
Okay.
Being with that tension, and I'm talking to myself for sure. You got something over there?
Surrender experiment.
And then that's 11 minutes right there. And I got this other call. And Deanna, she's kind of been in the background. She pointed her finger and said, Surrender Experiment. Have you heard of that book?
Run, guan, guan, guan. Run, guan, guan.